Jesus, my head is big, boy. Yo, what's going on YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you the top 5 things that I would do differently had I had the opportunity to go back to uni and do it all over again. Now, the reason why I'm doing this video is this is a time of year where students are preparing to go to uni, so I thought it would be an opportunity to share with you some of my experience and list the things that I will do differently. Now, you can't always get it right the first time. In fact, actually, in my case, you can't even get it right the second time. A little backstory about myself is that I actually went to 2 unis. First one being when I was fresh out of college, I went to a university called University of West London, or formerly known as Thames Valley University. And that's where I studied accounting and finance. So the second uni I went to was called GSM London, and that's where I actually graduated with an undergraduate degree in business management. So you might be thinking, you went to 2 unis. Technically, you got a chance to do it over again, right? Well, the answer is pretty clear cut. I didn't do so good in my first uni and I actually ended up dropping out. Luckily though, I was able to apply to a second one where I actually graduated. So most of the things I'm talking about today is referring to my first uni, although as a whole in general, it does apply to both and you'll understand more as the video progresses. Despite the 2 chances I got, I still look back and think I could have done this, I could have done that. And speaking to some of my friends and acquaintances, even running Instagram polls, right? There's a lot of commonalities in our answers to what we would have done differently. Speaking of Instagram polls, I actually ran one on there recently and here's some of the answers up here. And I want to thank everyone that actually got involved in the poll. But if you want to get involved in future polls, follow me on my Instagram, or also if you want us to make suggestions or recommendations, you can do so as well as the comments down below. On a separate note, my goal for 2020 is pretty simple. All I'm trying to do is hit that magic number of 1,000 subscribers. So if you haven't done so already, help a brother out, man. Subscribe to the channel. Hope you found some value in the video. Without further ado, let's go. Number 5, starting my assignments early. Yes, I said it. We've all been there before, one time or another. Or if not, chances are you knew someone who did. I was a professional, and I say professional procrastinator. I used to go days on end, not doing any work, and I wouldn't think twice about it. I realized later down the line why I used to do this a lot. And it was quite a hard truth to face, but it was really just down to me being afraid. I was afraid of putting in all that time from the beginning to the end, only to get a shit mark, or worse yet, fail. I undersold my own abilities to myself. It was almost like a coping mechanism. So what did I do to make up for that? I did my assignments late. That way, if I didn't do well, I had something to place the blame on, like, you know, oh, I started late, or oh, I didn't expect a good mark anyway. I developed this bad habit in the first year. And one of my lamest excuses I used to say to myself was, or say to people as well, was I worked better under pressure. You've heard that one before, right? Yeah, that is the hallmarks of a procrastinator. For example, I used to get an assignment, I would get an economics assignment. I would get that in mid-October. And the deadline for this usually is about early December. I would start this late November. Yeah, that's what I used to do. Don't get me wrong, I used to bang out the work, but the problem was that given like such a short time, all I was doing was, you know, regurgitating a whole lot of crap, chucking it into an essay to, you know, fill up the word count, and then calling that my assignment. So there was this book that I bought later on when I went to my second uni, and it's called How to Write Your Undergraduate Dissertation. And I actually found this so helpful because even though it was aimed at students doing their dissertation, the mental strategies that it teaches in the book can apply to assignments or big projects. And one of the things that it taught me that really stuck to my mind was, and if you read the book, correct me if I'm wrong, but it goes along the lines of this: ideas can only manifest over time, meaning you should use all the given time to come up with ideas on how to approach the work, move away from it, maybe like a day or so, and then come back to it. So that way you can come back to the work with fresh eyes and build on the ideas that you originally had, or add new ones. But essentially the whole process can only happen over time. So going back to my economics assignment, I didn't get a chance to do this since I started them so late. My brain was going into overdrive, so all I ended up doing was piecing together whatever I thought was relevant to the work, whether it was useful or not, and handing that in. To make things even worse, the first year didn't count towards my grade. All you needed was 40% to pass, and the work was a lot easier. Basically the honeymoon period to ease you in and prepare you mentally for the following years that count towards your grade. Unfortunately for me, I still passed these assignments, believe it or not. And I say unfortunate because this then solidified and sort of reinforced that procrastinating behavior that I'd adopted, which ultimately had a negative snowball effect on my mindset further into my course, which I'll touch up in a second. But if I had started my assignments from early, from the moment I received and I put in the effort, I probably would have gotten a better grade than I did, which then would have led to a massive boost in confidence, and I would have been in a much healthier mind frame going into my second year. So that's the first one. If I can do something differently in uni, I would start my assignments early. Number 4, taking second year of my course more seriously. If you're not familiar with an undergraduate degree, most courses are 3 years, or 4 in some cases where there's a foundation year as well. But the assignments and exams in your second and third year are what count towards your final grade. So it only made sense that from the second year onwards, that's when the difficulty level starts to ramp up. It ties in well with my first point because this is where the madness unfolds. Just to add a little bit more context, during my first year, like most students, I got my first taste of independence. I lived in accommodations, I was, doing up student life, freshers life, all of that stuff. I had some of the best times during that year, but as you can imagine, it comes at a price, don't it? And that was my studies. My studies took a massive hit. So by the time I got to my second year, I had all my priorities wrong. Alongside all the bad studying habits that I picked up, like I mentioned before about starting the assignments late, I got so accustomed to sort of the student life and I got comfortable with it that I was pushing my degree to the back burner. I know, big mistake. On top of it, that year I just got my driver's license and I was driving because I had a car. And you know what it's like, you got a car, you want to drive all your friends everywhere, you're just gassed. Yeah, now every chance I got, I was just constantly out. It got to a point where my family were concerned. Like even my girlfriend at the time, bless her, like she was sick of it because, every chance I got, I was spending my time with my friends. It all just boiled down to this, I had my priorities all wrong. I underestimated the importance of second year. During my whole first semester of second year, I fell behind. I fell behind on my assignments. I also, did terribly in the January exams. So terribly that in my second semester, I had to resort to this. What I'm about to show you guys. First of all, I'm surprised I still even have, but secondly, it wasn't the most proudest moment of my life, okay? I'm not proud of these, nor do I condone it, but here we go. I'm gonna show you guys. You see these? All this information on here. No, they're not revision notes. I don't actually know where they could be, but no. See how they fit nicely into my hand? Can you guess what they are? If you guessed it, well done. You're a cheater as well. But yeah, these are my cheat sheets. Come on, man. This was just one of many as well. People got so creative with like cheating methods. I'm not even gonna get into because it's just gonna give people ideas. All that time and energy that I spent making these cheat sheets, I could have put to better use, like actually studying. Who knows where I would have been if I'd put my head down and got on with the work. There's a girl I know actually in my same class, graduated on track. She is working at JP Morgan as a market analyst. And the last time we spoke, she was on a 45k salary and demanding more. And here I am making YouTube videos. No, I'm joking. I wouldn't have it any other way, to be fair. Yeah. Jokes aside, I end up getting caught during that year. I ended up doing the whole module again, which in the end led to me leaving that uni altogether. To sum up, if there was one thing I would do differently, it's definitely to take my second year more seriously and also not cheat. That should have been maybe the title of this one. Anyways, moving on. Number 3, networked more. University is networking on steroids. It really is. Luckily for me though, socializing wasn't one of the issues that I had. Some of my good friends now are people that I met from uni. Not long ago, I was celebrating, a friend's birthday, one of my uni friends' birthday. Shout out to Yvonne. The point I'm driving is that people that you network with in uni can become friends for life. But on that same breath, in regards to your studies, they can be the make or break of your success. I love those guys in my first uni and they're gonna kill me for saying this, but some of us were no good for each other. When I say that, I mean like we had the bad habits of skipping lectures, would go to student union or SU for a drink, just being typical bad student. Hand on heart, I could never blame them for this because they're my people to this day. And some of my most treasured memories of uni are with them. But at the end of the day, we're adults and we're responsible for our own decisions. I just wasn't strong enough to resist temptations. What I would have done differently in addition to the group that I had, maybe networked with more people and other people that were more focused on work. We possibly could have created a study group where we can help each other out with work, revise together, or just even talk through general problems and uplift each other. Because university, like undergraduate degree, is already stressful as it is. When you have people to talk through problems, that similar issues that you're going through, it takes a massive burden off your mind. I didn't have this support network. I mean, don't get me wrong, we did do little study groups, but most of the times we just fucked about. If you have the right set of people together, it makes a major difference. Also, take advantage of your lecturers. I only started doing this when I got to my second uni because by then I realized how valuable they are. But don't be afraid to speak to your lecturers. They can, help you a great deal. Not just on your studies, I'm sure they'll be happy to talk to you about other issues too. Not saying all of them will, discuss your life issues and relationship problems, etc. But do not rule out the option by not acknowledging them as a great source, because they have a great wealth of knowledge and life experience. Build a rapport with them. Like, they could potentially become your mentor, or at least someone you can go to for help. That's what they're there for. And for those of you who don't know, some of you already know this already, but for those who don't, your lecturers can also be your reference when you look for a job as well. Some employers request 2 references, one from a previous employer and one from a non-work related reference, hence your lecturer. So yeah, if there's anything I could do differently, that is my third one, which is to network more. We're about to go time traveling. I present to you tomorrow's me.
Many minutes later.
That'll be one of my honorable mentions for uni. Just get some sleep. Seriously, man. So moving on, number 2, traveled after graduation. This one here is more indirectly related to your uni studies, whereby your course doesn't necessarily depend on this to be a success. Typically, people take gap years before or after graduating from uni. I'm just gonna throw this out there. There's no right or wrong answer to this. It's just a matter of preference. But if I lived in a perfect world and my education was all on track, I would have chosen the latter, which is, traveled after graduating. Because at the moment, the only chance I get to escape the lovely weather that is the UK is when I'm on annual leave. The longest that'll be is 2 weeks tops. And that's not even traveling I'm talking about. That's just short trips abroad. My passport looks, like my first year assignment, empty. Anyways, yeah, the traveling I'm talking about is going abroad for at least a couple of months. See the world through a different lens, experience different cultures. I'm from London, and London is as multicultural as it gets, barring places like the States or whatever. But, just through work alone, I've been fortunate enough to have met people from all over the world, from different walks of life. And I say all of that to say this. Interacting with people from different cultures in London is one thing. Yeah. From where I'm sitting, I can only imagine, but I could bet my bottom dollar that it doesn't even compare to actually living these cultures in their motherland. And that's the kind of opportunities that traveling gives you, test yourself outside of your comfort zone. Obviously not to extremes where it's a matter of life and death, unless that's your cup of tea. Take some time out of work and studies, go by yourself, or maybe arrange it with other like-minded people. There's so many benefits that could be quite life-changing. Everything I mentioned previously, plus if you do plan on returning to the UK and you're chasing a career, employers are interested to see this on a CV. Just this one thing can set you apart from others. Like, you can line up 100 people, 100 candidates for a job, right? All with first class honors or maybe even master's degrees, but I guarantee only maybe a handful of people have actually gone and seen the world, or lived and worked abroad. Whatever the case may be, it just shows that you're not just about your academia, but you've also got life skills, and this you can't buy. I've been to a few countries in my life, but my favorite destination has to be Thailand. It's amazing there. I've been twice, and both times when I got back to the UK, I had massive withdrawals. So if I had to choose a destination to start traveling, it would have to be Southeast Asia, hands down. Although there are other places that people go to, like Australia, that I've heard good things about too. Do you know, the thing is, I sound quite advisey in this part of the video, but it's only because I haven't been there, and it's not something that you have to do as a student. I feel like this is something that would have enhanced my overall experience in uni as a whole. Being such a free-spirited person that I am, I feel like the traveling part would have definitely been a part of my uni experience and something I look back on and I'll have fond memories of. And finally, number 1, saved student loans, grants, and or bursary. Now this one here is highly subjective for a number of reasons. Firstly, how much you receive in fundings depends on your financial circumstances at home. Secondly, not all students apply for such funding, maybe because they're self-funded either by their parents or family. For those who do get funding, this might not 100% apply to you down to the last penny, but it can in some ways, so hear me out. And it's quite complicated to understand student finance, so for the benefit of people who are watching who may not understand the categories of student finance, I'm going to briefly explain to them so I can paint a better picture, so do bear with me. So there's 3 types. There's maintenance loan, maintenance grant, and bursary. So maintenance loan, all students are eligible to, and it's just a loan and you are liable to pay back with interest, I might add. A maintenance grant, that is something that not all students are eligible to, and this is money that you don't have to pay back. Bursary is, again, not all students are eligible to. It's a one-off payment from your university if they have the scheme. There is a fourth called a special support grant, which I won't get into too much because I don't know much about it. But with the exception of the bursary, which is a one-time payment, the rest of the fundings that I mentioned before are paid yearly, and the amount that you get for each of these depend on your household income. It's quite similar to benefits if you or your family's ever received this. In my case, I received maintenance loan, maintenance grant, and bursary, the whole works, because at the time our household income fell in the lower, actually let me correct that. Our household income fell in the lowest the lowest of the low of household incomes. Whether you want to call this an upside or not, there was a silver lining to this, and it just meant that I received the maximum funding that a student can get. To put that into perspective, I for maintenance loan got £6,000 a year. For maintenance grant, I got £3,000 a year. And for bursary, I got a one-time payment of £1,000. Think about it, that's 10 grand just on student finance alone. Plus I was working part-time as well. Anyways, I'm gonna cut to the chase. The mistake that I made was that I was living a student loan baller lifestyle. If you haven't heard that term before, you have now. Like, I was splashing out on anything and everything. Literally, like, it's because I'd never seen that kind of money before. You know, I was buying myself new clothes. I was buying presents for people on special occasions, like drinks, nights out. You want a drink? You want a drink? Nah, that's on me. That was me. I was that guy.
How are you coming first? Why are you fucking coming first?
It's time to stop. It's time to stop, okay? No more. Where the fuck are your parents?
There was this website that I used to use called Brand Alley. Like, they don't sponsor me for mentioning them or anything, but if anyone from Brand Alley is watching, your Ed Hardy boxes, I bought those. I had a ton of those. Anyways, like, you get the picture. I wasn't making smart moves. When I got to my second uni, I was still able to apply for student loans, and they still funded me with partial student loans. By this time, I wised up a little. I spent only my wages on my part-time work and dipped into the student loans for a side hustle. At the time, I was flipping cars. I was buying and selling cars. It started off small, but it then got progressively profitable. I'm not saying that you should go and do this right away, because it just worked for my schedule at the time. The point is, that little bit of money that I had, the little bit extra money that I had, I was able to turn to a profit. Like, had I been more financially savvy with all the student loans I had from the beginning, I would have been in a much better position financially coming out of university. Because even to this day, I am, like most students, are paying back student loans. And don't forget, remember I mentioned earlier about student loans just being a loan? There is interest payable to it. It's quite a killer. You know, so if you're not careful with your money or your student loans and you go splash out like I did, you'll be paying that back for a long time. Here's what I would have done differently. But before I go ahead though, let me just mention that I am not professionally qualified to advise anyone what to do with their money by any capacity. It is up to you to do your own due diligence, your own research. Things that I think that might work for me may not work for you. So again, please take my word with a pinch of salt. Use an example of what I used to get for student finance and also me flipping cars and working part-time. This is what I would have done, right? I would have, for the first year, I probably still would have lived in accommodations. So the maintenance loan would have went straight to the accommodation funding, which I'll pay back later on down the line, and you see how. The bursary, actually, I would have used that towards my my uni, studies, like equipment, textbooks, etc. You know how expensive they get. And then the maintenance grant, I would have used that, dip into that for my side hustle. When I was flipping cars, I would make roughly about £600 to £800 per car. Let's just say 700 for the sake of argument. And it would take me roughly about a month, right, to flip each car. £700 profit every month, right? Plus the part-time, job that I had, I earned about £600 per month. Add them both together, that's already £1,300. That's enough to live on. That's someone's salary. You're breaching about 22k a year. But to pay back the maintenance loan, what I would have done is taken £300 from 1,300. So I'm left with £1,000 to spend for the month, £300 savings to pay back the maintenance loan. And over 3 years, so over 3 academic years, that's £8,100. That easily pays off that maintenance loan for the accommodation plus some change. And every month I would have had £1,000 to spend. And that's not even touching the maintenance loan from the second and third year. That, to stay safe, I probably would have just stuck that in a cash ISA, to accumulate interest. But if I'm feeling a little bit risky, then maybe I would have invested in some stocks and shares. That one is a little bit more risky, of course. And you know, there's plenty of platforms out there and plenty of information for you to, you know, research on. But if you do want to get involved in investing though, actually check out my mate's channel. He runs a finance investing channel. Solid information. He actually got me into investing. It's called Get Investing. I'll put a link in the description below. So now by the end of 3 years, all of my maintenance loan would have been intact. I would have been able to use that and pay back student finance immediately, so that my student debt would be much lower. I still would have had my maintenance grants all intact as well, because I was just living off the profit of each car. I would have been in a much better position. You know, that's almost 3 grand for 3 years. That's 9 grand easily. A deposit on a house, or maybe work for another year or 2 after you graduate, and that's a deposit right there. Or if you feel lavish, then go on, you know, traveling. That could supplement your traveling. So there you have it, guys. That's my list of top 5 things that I'll do differently in uni. As you could tell, the video took me a long time to record and even longer to curate. So I hope that someone out there actually found some value in the video. Maybe I've helped someone take a page out of my book and learn from my mistakes. If you have, don't forget to like the video. Also subscribe to the channel as well. It really helped me push towards my goal of 1,000 subscribers by the end of 2020. And wherever you're watching in the world, stay well, stay blessed, and see you in the next video.